Hey guys, Melissa here. In today's video I'll be showing you the Corsair K57 RGB wireless gaming keyboard. This keyboard does have per RGB backlighting featuring the new Capellix LEDs and also has that slipstream technology. So what's good about the slipstream technology is the fact that it gives you a more reliable wireless connection, and just generally it has less power consumption when you're actually using the keyboard, meaning that you're able to use it for longer periods of time. So this keyboard does RRP at $89.99, so let's give it an unbox and have a look at it. So on the inside you're greeted with the keyboard straight away, so you can see exactly what the keyboard looks like fully. You can have like a play around with the keys and all that. So let's take that out now and put this here. When it comes to the instructions, guides, how to set it up, generally your warranty information and all that sort of stuff, that's going to be in these little booklets here. Through here is where you'll find the cable. So this cable is a 1.8 meter tangle-free rubber cable, and this cable has the USB 2.0 or 3.0 type A connectivity as well. And then just behind where you found the cable, you do have a nice additional wrist rest as well. In terms of the look of the keyboard, it is all over black plastic, and it does have the plastic ABS keycaps as well. On board you do have your multimedia control keys, so that means you can go ahead and control your music that you're listening to, or videos, or anything that you want to, YouTube, etc. You also have your macro record key, your brightness key, and a Windows lock key. And also as well, what's really cool about this keyboard is you do have the macro buttons as well. So you have 6 macro buttons on the keyboard, and you can assign them to do whatever you want when it comes to your like photoshopping, your video editing, your gaming, or anything like that. You can actually choose what you want these macro keys to do. In terms of the sturdiness of the keyboard, I think that because it is made out of plastic, it's not going to be as sturdy or durable as that of like an aluminium keyboard, just for the fact that the keyboard is very lightweight. So I'd recommend that you just try and be as delicate or as responsible as you possibly can when transporting the keyboard, or just generally using it over time. If you end up accidentally dropping it or something, you might just have a few nicks. Moving on to the wrist rest that came as like a nice addition to this keyboard. It's like a very thin, hard, rough plastic wrist rest. So it's not the best quality, but at least they have actually provided you with one of these wrist rests. You find that keyboards that kind of are in the same price range as this one, for instance, not all of them do come with wrist rests. So it's nice that Corsair actually did add this as an extra. You don't have to use it, it's just one of those, if you like it, use it. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. The keyboard still feels good without it. Moving on to the connectivity of the K57 and its wirelessness goodness. On the kind of top part of the frame of the keyboard is where you'll find your power on and off button, and you also find the wireless receiver nicely tucked away in like a little place on the actual keyboard itself. So whilst I'm not someone that uses instructions normally, this one definitely had me stumped. So I had taken the wireless receiver out of the frame of the keyboard, put it into a USB port in my PC, turned on the keyboard via the power on and off button, and waited for the indicator to show me that the keyboard had paired successfully with the PC. So I'm waiting and nothing is happening, and I'm really wondering why. So I'm like flicking through the instruction manual. It doesn't really say anything that will help me. Turns out I needed to install the firmware for this keyboard and the update obviously for the iCUE that I'd had potentially missed. But I feel that when it comes to someone owning this keyboard for the very first time, maybe it's their first wireless keyboard, or maybe it's just their first keyboard entirely, I find that with the instructions not saying, hey, you should update the firmware for the keyboard, for the iCUE, whatever, I find that this is kind of like just a downside to it, because the instructions don't help that much when it comes to it. It tells you how to connect, but it doesn't actually go ahead and tell you just these little details that will help you connect. So once I'd done all that, I found that the keyboard had paired up perfectly, basically. It was just that little oversight of not having everything updated. So my moral of the story is completely make sure that everything that you have is updated. With this keyboard, there are a lot of LED indicators, so I would definitely kind of familiarize yourself with the LED indicators either via online or through the instruction manual yourself, because the keyboard does try and tell you a lot, whether it's running out of battery, whether it's full on battery, whether it's connected, whether it hasn't connected. And there's just a lot to take in until you kind of understand your keyboard and know what everything means. So until then, I would definitely recommend you either having a look online at images of the keyboard or having a flick through the instruction manual, because everything is listed there. And yeah, just kind of get used to your keyboard basically, and just to help you along the way. In terms of the connectivity that the K57 has, it's really quite cool because you can actually connect it to up to 3 different devices. So all you have to do is, obviously for one connection, you use your USB wireless receiver into your PC or something. And then if you wanted to connect it to 2 other different devices, as long as they have Bluetooth 4.0 or higher, you can connect the keyboard to them. And you can actually control the connections and change which connection the keyboard is with, all through the FN, F5, F6 and F7 key. So all you do is hold down FN and then press the F5, F6 or F7 key to change your connections. I just think this is really cool because it means that you have the freedom of choosing whichever device you want to use, all from the keyboard itself. In terms of the battery and the battery life of the K57 keyboard, the battery is a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, and the battery life can last, as Corsair states, up to 175 hours. This is all dependent on whether you have the lighting effects on, whether they're level 1 brightness, which apparently lasts up to 35 hours, level 2 brightness, which lasts up to 20 hours, and level 3 brightness, which is the absolute max brightness, that can last up to 8 hours. Another thing to mention when it comes to the battery life with the keyboard as well is the fact that if you're not using it for 15 minutes or over, the keyboard does actually go into standby mode, which preserves your battery even longer. Now to talk about one of the more important topics when it comes to gamers and gaming keyboards is the keys. So this keyboard in particular uses rubber dome keys, and this is my very first experience with using this particular type of key. I'm so used to using mechanical keys, especially on my K95 Platinum Speed Silver Switch keyboard. So going from that to the rubber dome key was very, very strange for me. I personally wasn't a fan of using the rubber dome keys on this keyboard for the fact that they require longer and firmer key presses in order to actually actuate, and going from something that I'm so used to barely even touching and it actuates to something that I actually have to put quite a lot of effort in. And I found that using the keyboard after long periods of uses, when it came to gaming or typing, that my fingers would feel a little bit of strain just because I'm having to press a lot harder. However, when the keys are being pressed, the keys are actually relatively quieter than what I'm used to. So that means it's going to be really good if you want to use this whilst you're in Discord, or if you're a streamer, or if you record videos, or generally just if you're doing a lot of typing at once, you're not distracting the people around you, you're not distracting the people in your Discord lobby or anything like that. Moving on to what is quite a controversial topic is the RGB lighting effects that the keyboard does have. Some people think that RGB lighting is not needed, it's not necessarily expensive, and it's pointless, blah blah blah. But you get the other side of people like myself who really do enjoy when peripherals have like personalization, customizable effects that you can choose from whatever you want, just for the fact that I take pride in the way my setup looks. So that means that if I can change a keyboard to match the other stuff that I've got around, I really enjoy that, and it gives me a sense of kind of achievement when I've matched it all, or I can change whenever I want to, depending on my mood or what I want the room to feel like. And I think that it's really cool that this K57 wireless keyboard does have the ability to be customizable, whether you want to use the IQ software and customize per key that way, or whether you just wanted to take a more laid-back approach and just have your lighting modes all from the keyboard. Now to talk about my likes and dislikes about this gaming keyboard. So first of all, I'm going to start off with the dislikes, because it's always better to start off with negatives and then end on a positive. So first of all, I wasn't really a massive fan of the kind of size of the keyboard, especially because it is a wireless keyboard and it's going to be used probably for being a lounge gaming keyboard. So you want to go into your living room and actually sit on your sofa back with it on your lap and game that way. But I found, for me personally, it just wasn't a very comfortable experience. The keyboard is very, very similar to the K55, so it's just having a full-size keyboard on your lap. I wasn't a massive fan of it, and it just it didn't feel right, that's all. Another one of my dislikes is the wrist rest. So whilst yes, it is a great addition to have when it comes to buying the keyboard and having that optional extra, I personally felt that the K57 keyboard was a hell of a lot more comfortable without the wrist rest itself. So the wrist rest is thin, hard, rough because of its texture. I just feel that maybe it could have been made to be a little bit more better quality. And then to end my dislike list, I'm going to end it on the keys. I'm not a fan of rubber dome keys, and I probably won't be going out and buying a rubber dome keyboard in future. I think if I was to use it for short periods of time, maybe just use it as like a multimedia keyboard more than anything instead of a gaming or a working keyboard, I personally wouldn't use this one. I would use something that I would feel a lot more comfortable using, and something that I don't have to put so much effort into using. And then finally, on a more lighter note, when it comes to my likes about the K57 keyboard, there was actually a fair amount of them. So first of all, I did enjoy the freedom that the K57 gave you in terms of it being wireless, meaning you didn't have any cables restricting you at all. And just generally, you have the range of up to 10 meters. So I could sit in one corner of the room, I could sit in another if I wanted to. And I didn't have any like restrictions, I didn't have to move anywhere to be in sight of the wireless receiver. Another thing that really did impress me with the keyboard was the battery life of it. So the battery life definitely lasted a lot longer whilst I had the lights turned off, but I was kind of like flicking between off and on anyway. But once they were on, I mean, I could still turn on my keyboard now, and even though I've had lights on, it's not telling me that I need to charge it anytime soon or anything. So I think that the battery life for this particular keyboard is really good. Another absolutely wonderful thing is I really enjoy when keyboards have onboard controls. So having the multimedia controls, the 6 macro buttons, the macro record button, the Microsoft Windows lock key, and just generally having that brightness key as well. I feel that you can do a lot all just from the keyboard. So guys, whilst reviewing the Corsair K57 keyboard, they did go ahead and send me one of their new MM500 mouse pads, and this thing is an absolute monster. So I've got it down here because I wanted to go ahead and unbox it just to show you guys what it looks like on like desks and all that sort of stuff, just because this thing is absolutely massive. So let's check it out. Personally, I wouldn't use something like this in like my setup just because I wouldn't know where to put it. But other than that, some people like to have huge mouse pads. So here you go guys, here is the Corsair MM500 mouse pad, and I think we are going to end it here. So thank you so much guys for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the BitTech channel and you want to, please make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next video. For now, I'm going to go ahead and use this MM500 mouse pad as a yoga mat. See you later, guys.